It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
Time to talk cars on a Sunday morning for the next 60 minutes. Your Automotive Weekly Experience. I'm Nick Miles. You're listening to America's Automotive Radio Show. This is Test Miles, nationally celebrated, locally created. Our team of misfits, rapscallions and ne'er-do-wells in the studio, Zhenya, Sean Walker, and Old Man Brad. And we've been driving some cars this week. I have actually been driving a vehicle that I was grossly surprised at when I got into it for the first time, which is the BMW X5M. I've never been a huge fan of the X5, but as soon as the M came along, sold. You know, checkbook in hand, ready to go and spend $100.
That's a big checkbook.
It is. Well, no, the checkbook, the box you write the numbers in is very big.
Yeah, it's going to have to be big.
$106,000 approximately, I think the one I'm driving. So 5-door performance crossover, astounding performance, very, very, very competitive in its class. Upscale interior, excellent fit and finish. BMW are a brand that you either love or you dislike. This vehicle is really hard not to love, even if you're not a fan of the brand. It really is the probably quintessential, secretive car for performance. You don't expect an X5 to rocket off of the line. I was looking at the regular X5M. I was looking at the regular X5 versus the Ford Edge. And when you put those cars side by side, the Edge actually has a faster 0 to 60 time. So the regular X5 does about 6.2 0 to 60, and the Ford Edge does under 6 seconds. When you get to the X5M, everything's off the table. Really different performer as far as the car is concerned. 567 horsepower, 4.4-liter V8 engine, and the exhaust sound is one of those exhaust sounds which you love. I like to go past people and just hit the gas and let your foot off and let it listen to the pop the exhaust makes. It's kind of one of those cars. Really nicely put together on the inside. Very BMW, all-wheel drive. What does it compete against? The Porsche Cayenne Turbo, the Mercedes-Benz ML63, the AMG version, Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT, Range Rover Sport SVR. So plenty of those. The starting price, just a cool $98,700.
So is it a typical BMW that it feels a little stark on the inside?
No, not at all. Two-tone seats, a lot of extras. There are a few things with BMW that I'm sure I would get used to in time if I was driving this vehicle, but one of the things I dislike is the shifter. And so with the shifter, you have to go left and up. It's an automatic shifter, but left and up for reverse, and then back and right twice to get it into gear. And then when you park it, you have to basically put the parking brake on in drive and turn the engine off twice.
Can't you just, like a lot of push-button starts, our transmissions like that, you just push the car off and it puts itself in park?
No, it doesn't. The problem with that is if you turn it off in gear, in neutral, it will tell you you're in neutral, it needs to put it into drive.
But at least it tells you, right?
Yeah, it tells you on the dash.
There's been a problem with some of those where it's like because that's the thing with some of those weird transmissions. Usually I just turn the car off and it puts itself in park, but a few, they're weird like that, and it's like, step out and the car starts rolling.
The other thing about it I don't like is that you have to hit the stop button twice. So you hit it once to turn the engine off and a second time to turn all the electronics off in the car. And, of course, I hit it once, and I'll get out the car, shut the door, and walk away, and the radio's still going. I'm like, well, that's not right. I have to get back in and hit it a second time. I think it does turn itself off after a while. But these are quirky BMW things. They do a lot of these things for safety. They've done a lot of research into them. And I'm sure I wouldn't have any problem with it if I was driving it every day. But the fact is you drive it for less than 7 days. I'm driving it for like 4 days or something, and you're just not quite
You
used
still
to it.
never would have gotten used to the iDrive back in the day.
Yeah, the old iDrives. The new iDrive is much better. I like the fact that there's a bunch of buttons in there now. So the iDrive is the central wheel, which is next to the shifter that allows you to go through the infotainment system. And now they were hard to guide themselves around. Nowadays, they're a lot better. Mercedes has got easier, too, with their infotainment systems. Audi just revamped the MMI system they have in this. They're getting better. It took Ford until the third generation of Sync to pull that together. So it's been tough for some of these companies. I know Sync 2 in Fords were a lot worse than Sync 1, and Sync 3 is a great improvement.
I'm sure it's engineers that put it together, and then they completely understand it, and they have no idea why the general public can't.
See, I like the first system of the iDrive. I actually enjoyed the first system and first version more than I do the recent
They took
models.
us down to Los Angeles and spent 2 days training us how to use it, which seemed like a lot for a car you had to sell to somebody.
Everyone else got 1 day. Just Brad got 2 days.
Yeah,
Well, that
but
could have been.
Like when the iDrive actually came out, man, I'm going to date myself, but I was back in my 20s and like a tech guy back then, and that's where I enjoyed it. And it was easy and fluent for me to use while I was driving. It felt just like a video game controller in my hand.
You could look at it like this. You're the second youngest person on the show.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm the third.
Well, Oli's not
youngest.
here today.
True.
Youngest.
True.
Jenya's 14. You're 40.
I'm not 40 yet.
You're not far off. I'm 21.
That's why we got
Brad's
you.
like-
That's why we got you into the Buick.
I know. I felt like I needed to get the senior citizen card out for that
You
one.
should see how his face is completely drained of color when I mentioned he's 40. He's just like, it was like a realization.
Yeah.
Sean. All right, what have you been driving, Sean?
Like Brad said, I've been driving the Buick Regal GS. It's a fun car. I mean, I actually enjoyed the styling of it, but the funny thing is I was getting a lot of thumbs up from people in their 60s driving this car, and I just didn't get it for a while. I'm like, I'd like pull in a parking lot, and literally there was like,
It's like, welcome to the club.
yeah, that's what it felt like, and it was just like, I went to Beaches for lunch, and
There
this
you go.
60-year-old lady's like, thumbs up, and I'm just like,
The guys from the AARP van are waving at him.
and I'm just like, I didn't get it until I realized I was driving a Buick. It's a nice car, great styling cues in and outside, very comfortable. And the GS is more their performance model. The only thing I really don't like is the styling cues or the design on the steering wheel. I don't like the steering wheel buttons on it because they're, to me, not placed in the right spots. They have like, on your right-hand side, they have your volume. Then you have to reach completely over to the right side to change channels.
I like Buick, and I have to tell you that I think they've done a lot of changes performance-wise as far as their cars are concerned. That GS, the all-wheel drive, I drove that on snow a couple of years ago in Canada, and it kicked backside. I managed to take off the four-wheel, the snow version, and put it into two-wheel drive and run it into a snowbank, which the guys from the Fastlane car had to dig me out of. But I think they're great performers. I think they're sporty. They call themselves I never really understood this. They call themselves the doctor's car. And I don't get this with Acura, and I don't really understand this whole thing of wanting luxury high-end cars but wanting them to be low profile. If I'm having a luxury cool car, I kind of want,
I don't feel that this is even low profile because even with the GS, they have styling wheels. Like, they're an aggressive wheel to it. And there's just an aggressive look to this car, so I don't get the whole...
Maybe it's the not doctor's car. They call them the doctor's cars because doctors who, want luxury
So
cars
it's the
don't want to know.
physician's assistant car.
And even for performance...
Be careful where this goes.
It has a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that cranks out 259 horse, but it feels like there's more than 259 horse under that hood.
It's a light car, though. Too.
It's a very light car. I enjoyed driving it. I had a great time with it. Like I said, the only thing I don't like is just the styling or the design of the steering wheel.
What's the price? How much are we talking about?
We're talking $44,670.
I don't know if I'd spend that much money on it.
You can get into a base Regal for $27,000, so it just depends on what you're looking for. If you want a Buick and get into one, you can get into it pretty reasonable.
It depends what reasonable is to you.
27 is not that bad. That's about an average price of a car now.
Stripped down base model, right?
Yeah, but it's still going to have features. You're going to have more features than, say, a Volkswagen.
Yes, of course. All right. And nobody's been driving anything else. What have you been driving, Junior?
Well, I've been able to be riding around Florida, Miami, Florida, in a Ford Transit.
But you weren't driving.
No, I wasn't driving, but I was riding around it, and I could get a good impression.
You were texting me that how much you like the Transit. And I was
Yes,
like,
I
that's
did.
the first time I've
I
ever got
did.
that text.
I did like it. It was the good thing about the Transit is it's a good shuttle car. It's really good for hauling passengers short distance, but for long distance it isn't the best because the ride can get a bit jiggly, the seats are a bit uncomfortable and narrow. But the one thing I really liked about the Transit is how high the ride height was.
Right. Well, that's why people like Range Rovers, though, too.
Yeah,
And they're not jiggity.
yeah.
I felt like we should be dancing like to Will Smith or something when you said that.
I'd take the Sprinter, though.
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
like, I would take the Sprinter, too, but they're different classes. The Sprinter's much bigger, I think.
It's still great for hauling people, and
Yeah, and it's not so jiggity.
it's not nearly as jiggity.
All right. You know, coming up, we have a jiggity break. We're going to be talking to the guys from Scion. Scion reinventing themselves. They're coming out with 2 brand new models September 1st. We got to test drive them this week. And we'll also be having some local fellows in and gals from Double J Motorworks who are specialists in making your German VWs and Audis perform amazingly. That's all coming up on Test Miles this morning. FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
Oh, welcome back to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL Automotive Radio Show live from our studios in downtown Portland. Test Miles is available by podcast 24/7. Just go to testmiles.com and click on the podcast radio button in the upper right-hand corner.
So, Nick, here's our first fact of the day. Scion, as a name, means heir of descent, which typifies that brand when it first came on board. They were going to change the rules.
Absolutely. Scion is a brand of vehicles produced by Toyota for North American market. Founded in 2002, Scion's long-term goal was to appeal to the Generation Y consumers. The first Scion models were the XA hatchback and the XB wagon. They went on sale in California in 2003, followed by a sports coupe, which is the TC, and then a nationwide launch in the U.S. in 2004. The successor to the XA and the XD premiered in 2008, and Scion's marquee expanded to Canada in 2010. The Scion lineup uses one trim level, a simplified purchase process, and the marquee has really been a guerrilla marketing for them, viral marketing techniques. The Scion name, of course, as Brad said, meaning descent. And I think that's kind of how we see the brand, and they've been very successful at doing it. Launched originally with a promise of a short product cycle and a value-based car. Now, they're going through somewhat of a rebirth in the United States. They've launched 2 new models at the New York Auto Show this year, the Scion IA and IM. Joining us on the phone to talk about them is David Lee from Scion. David, welcome to America's Automotive Radio Show, Test Miles. Let's start with the IM. What can you tell me about this new Scion model?
Well, Nick, the IM is an all-new model that we're bringing to the U.S. market. It is a subcompact hatchback vehicle, and it really fits a slot that we currently don't have a model plugged into. It's going to be designed to appeal to the Scion buyers out there, which is the kind of 18 to 34-ish or 35 crowd. And we're looking to have this car be a hit with folks that maybe have an urban lifestyle, but then also want to get out and explore in their spare time. They want to get out of the city and go, have some experiences out in the world. So the hatchback design really lends itself well to that.
One of the things we talked about when I was in San Francisco with you this week, looking at these 2 new cars and test driving them, and I know this is more of a marketing question, you're much more of a product guy, but we should probably touch on the fact that when Scion originally was born in the United States, the idea was to appeal to this younger generation, but it got a huge following with the crowd in their 70s, pre-retirees, retirees. It really appealed to that market and sort of left what the original plan was, but this new car is getting back to the younger generation and getting back to that Y generation, right?
Absolutely. We're looking to do that. I can be near certain to say that there will be some folks, perhaps out of that age demographic, that will buy it. I mean, I'm an old guy, and I think it's a great car. I think I can put my bicycle in the back of it, yet it handles better than anything we've ever had in that segment before. So you may have some folks, being attracted to it for its just based on its merits, but we really think that the IA and the IM both reflect the interests of the changing marketplace out there and the current crop of younger buyers that are looking to purchase an automobile.
Now, I wasn't sure when I first saw them in New York how I felt about them, but after driving them, I'm actually very impressed with the amount of content, with the drive. Tell me what's under the hood of the IM.
Well, the IM under the hood sports a 1.8-liter four-cylinder engine and either a 6-speed manual or our CVTIS continuously variable transmission. And those pieces are both sourced from our Corolla models that are currently on sale in the U.S. market and around the world. And then as you go under the chassis there, you've got suspension components, a McPherson strut up front, and then a dual wishbone out back that really give you more of a European-inspired handling experience.
Now, the interesting thing about this is that you have a very sporty drive out of something that you didn't expect to be so sporty. A small engine, but you also have the ability to make it perform.
Yeah, one of the things that I personally like about a car is a lightweight chassis with not a ton of horsepower, but that has great handling characteristics. It makes it fun to throw it around on the corners, and what I call a momentum car, right? One that really encourages you to learn how to master the art of driving in a corner. Our CVTIS transmission has a sport mode capability that also allows the transmission to sense when you're in a corner and holds you in a lower gear position so that when you exit your turn, you get shot out of there with a little bit more authority, and that makes it quite fun to drive.
Now, content-wise, this is the big thing with these cars, both the IM and the IA. You showed us a table in San Francisco of the competitors versus these vehicles, and I would say quite strongly you're kicking the backside of the competition with the sort of content that comes standard on these cars.
Yeah, what we wanted to do is appeal to that buyer out there that wants a simple purchase process and a simple vehicle selection process. And so one of the things we did was basically reduce the choices down to about 2 on the IM, and that is your vehicle's color and your gearbox choice or your transmission choice. Other than that, you can choose to add navigation to your audio system, which already has a nice display screen and app content to it and connectivity. And then perhaps add some accessories when you're buying the car at the dealership. So we have a high degree of standard content out there already at the start, really to help make the purchase process simple. And it just so happens that our competitors are kind of taking a different angle there, I think.
Let's talk about the IA before we run out of time in this segment. So how different is the IA from the IM? It's a sedan. It's a 4-door sedan. But it's also it's made by Mazda in Mexico and is really sort of a new venture for you guys.
Yeah, it really is reflecting a partnership that we've established with Mazda here to not only build this car, but perhaps share some technologies down the road. IA is aimed at a little bit different buyer, similar age, but this buyer is going to be more of a nighttime urban vehicle user. They may want to go out and club and hit the night spots with their friends. So it's a small, urban-oriented vehicle. It's an entry subcompact sedan. The car only weighs about 2,400 pounds. It's got a 1.5-liter engine under the hood, and then offers you either a 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic to get you around. So,
all right. That's nice. Well, last question I have time for you, David, is before we hit the news, is prices of these cars and availability.
Yes, well, both vehicles are going to launch on September 1st. I'll start with the IM. Pricing on the IM is $18,400 for the manual transmission, and $19,200 for the automatic.
And the IA?
The IA starts out at $15,700 for the manual, and then tops off at $16,800 with an automatic transmission.
Excellent. David Lee from Scion, thank you so much for joining us on Test Miles this morning. When we come back, talking to Double J, they're going to be in the studio. We're going to talk about how you can soup up your Audi or your VW. You're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com.
Live from our studios in downtown Portland, Sunday morning, America's Car Radio Show. We'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. For more fun facts about cars, you can go to our Facebook page, Test Miles, ENT for entertainment.
Here's a fun fact you can impress your friends with. The classic Beetle was manufactured from 1938 to 2003, which is an astounding 65 years. The total number of Beetles that were built, 21,529,000 464.
Excellent. All right. Well, we have a reputation here on Test Miles for bringing you outstanding local businesses in Portland, and today is no exception. We have asked the team from Double J Motorworks to come in. Welcome to Kerry and Joey. You guys are a full-service shop on 122nd, just off Airport Way, but specialize in some pretty cool stuff, some VW and Audi stuff. Joey, did you start off as an Audi or VW fan and then ended up trying to make a business out of it, or did the business come first? Which came first, the cart or the horse?
I would say the passion for Volkswagen Audi for sure first.
And was it VW and sort of progressed into Audi, and then or the other way around? Because I started off as an Audi fan much more, and then sort of became a VW fan.
Yeah, it was Volkswagen first, the Rabbit, and then seeing other things that Volkswagen Group made, which was the Audi. Then I started to fall in love with those as well.
So I would love to see some of the cars that you had. First of all, they probably ended up as very, very. I would say produced cars once a time when you had them in the shop and you played with them. What sort of things were you doing to cars at the beginning?
Mostly it was starting off as making them run well.
Okay.
So I got really good at that and decided to dabble with some performance. And from that point, it was simple things like camshafts, exhausts, and such.
Making them sound good, making them go fast, that type of thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What would you say if there's one specialty you have about Audis or VWs? Is it making them go fast or...?
Making them run well first.
Okay,
It's run well first, then go fast.
Excellent. Now, I know that Sean had been over to your shop in the past to do some filming with one of his his buddies. You've done some pretty incredible race cars. You've been working on some sort of performance vehicles. Tell me about those.
Yeah, one that's the big one that set some world records is a 1990 Audi Coupe Quattro, and it's just a drag car, so it just goes straight, and it's got a pretty impressive engine. It's over 1,000 horsepower. It's from a 4-cylinder and turbocharged, obviously. And it's a great car. Goes very fast, and it will continue to keep going that fast. And our goal is to go faster.
This car actually sounds exotic too, because my buddy filmed it and then let me listen to it. And he's like, "Don't look at the car. I don't even want you to look at the video. Just listen to this." And he's like, "What car do you think this is?" And I was like, "That has to be like Lambo, or I mean, it is loud and just
loud and fun and fast."
And then I'm like, "That's not a 4-cylinder."
No, everybody loves loud, fun, and fast. I always love to tell the story. About 2 years ago on Thanksgiving, I had an Audi R8, the V10 version from Iron Man. It was the Iron Man package.
Oh, nice.
And we took it, I won't tell you where, but we were driving it 0 to 100 and trying to get it under 7 seconds. And it was unbelievable. I would do this 0 to 100 miles an hour, and then I'd come back to the house, and the person that I'd been in the passenger seat was like telling everybody, was like, "Oh, choose me, I want to go next, I want to go next." So I ended up like 7 or 8 people, and one of my best friends, who also happens to be a physician, is very, very accomplished guy, engineer, been a police officer, is a pilot. He was in the passenger seat and stomping on the floor the whole time, like, slow down. And he did say that he had a out of body experience in that. So Audis can give you an out of body experience. So that's the sort of thing that you're going for on the everyday car, right? Is to make those cars fast like that, to make them really impressive.
Yeah, and it's people buy these cars for that reason, and we help keep them at that experience level for them.
So a lot of race cars, but your shop does a lot of general servicing and those sort of things. Do you see more VWs in the shop, or are you seeing lots of different things?
We see a pretty good mix of VW and Audi
that come through the door. And what about regular like servicing for other people? So who don't have Audis and VWs? You have a full service shop, right?
We strictly specialize in VW and Audi.
Right. So if you have a VW and Audi, come and see you. If you don't, then you may be kind of out of luck. But a lot of people doing modifications to their cars, or is it just a lot of hey, can you make it run better? Those type of things.
Yeah, there's a mix on that. People that bring their cars to us typically want them to have scheduled maintenances and such, and then I try to work my charm on them to go faster.
So what's the secret? Let's say I have a Golf GTI, and I want to come in and I want to soup it up a little bit, and I want to do something special with it. Is this the sort of thing where you're putting different engines in? Are you retuning or rechipping the engines that are in there? or is it accessories like better air intakes, better exhausts, better transmissions, those type of things?
Right. Yeah. The first thing to start with in your wants and wishes would be to do software, which is a recalibration of the ECU's programming, and parts that go onto the car, such as exhausts and intakes, help complement the software.
The downside to retuning the software in the car is usually fuel economy, right? Because I'm sure if you're tuning them up, you don't worry about that so much.
Yeah, actually, that's not really so much true. The gas mileage tends to go down when you put your pedal all the way to the floor.
Right.
When you're done having fun, it goes back to the same fuel mileage that it would normally get.
So why aren't they doing this at the factory? Why aren't these cars coming out? There's probably not an answer to that question, is there?
There is a difference between European cartoons and North American cartoons. So
Right.
people say, why don't we get these tunes? And I say, well, come on over and I'll put your tune on the car and you'll see what it's all about.
Yeah,
So-
remember that Volkswagen Scirocco we drove that was from
Europe.
2 years ago? I would take that over half the sports cars that we get today.
Right.
That thing was just the coolest car we've ever driven.
We've never been able to understand. Well, I mean, VW make a case that they can't afford it, but we've never really been able to understand why they've never brought the Scirocco here, because that's an amazing car.
I agree. It is an amazing car, very sexy looking, styling. But from what I've been told, which who knows whether it's true or not, they don't want the Scirocco to interfere with the GTI sales.
Right. Okay.
So
I will tell you, to most people's jealousy, we have a brand new Scirocco in our family. It unfortunately resides in our British office. So we can't bring it here. My sister drives it to work every day and home every day. So
Lucky her.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure about her choice of lime green color, but nevertheless, it's a really...
I'm okay with that.
It's a really cool car. All right, so if people want to find Double J, they have a VW, they have an Audi, they want it either serviced or they want it tuned up, where are you guys? How do they find you?
If they're local, they can come to our shop, which is located Northeast Portland, and the address is 5541 Northeast 122nd Avenue, Suite 330.
Right off Airport Way.
Absolutely. And then you can also find us online, which is doublejmotorworks.com.
Excellent. So anything from just a service to all the way up to $100,000 accessories, you'd be happy to help.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you, Joey and Kerry from Double J. Thanks for coming in the studio. And I'm sure in the next, I would hope for a year or so, we could probably come up with some ideas of some stuff to do with some fun projects and that type of thing.
We could.
You up for that? All right. You listen to Test Miles on FM News 101. Still coming up on the show, we are going to talk about some of the top news stories that have been happening this week and find out what happened with this robot at the VW plant in Germany. Was it human error? Was it robots against man or machine? What's going on there? The big story on Test Miles next.
Favorite us, tweet us, friend us, love us, all at testmiles.com. It's Test Miles on FM News 101.
And the last part of the show this morning, the downside fourth gear, I guess we call it, lap 4, live from our studios in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning. This is America's Car Radio Show. I'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. For more fun facts about cars, again, go to our Facebook page.
Here's a fun fact and our final fact of the day. In 1937, GMC introduced its first sports utility vehicle, the GMC Suburban.
Excellent. Seems so long ago.
The
You remember that,
Suburban's
Brad?
been around for that long.
The Suburban, I think I owned it.
Did you?
Hauled some horses.
Patong ching. Let's talk about some top news stories this week. Of course, one of the big news stories that everyone's been talking about is the fact that this automotive assembly line robot killed a worker at the VW plant in Germany this week. It seems like it was human error, a programming error. It picked him up and threw him against the wall. This is the first time I've ever heard about anything like this.
And it was in Germany.
Yeah.
It's a shock.
Why would you say that about the poor Germans?
Well, they're 0-2. That's all I could say.
Right, I have never seen anybody be killed by a robot in any circumstances. I'm sure
No, and
happened before.
substantially unusual, and you've been through a number of factories and seen these things. It's really precise. You can't build a vehicle and have things go wrong like that.
Yeah, it's not like it went wild and just started doing things. It did the program that they had programmed into it, and unfortunately the guy was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
When there's a wreck on the road, what normally is, it's driver error.
Yes.
So it's likely employee error.
Unlike anything else. The other story that I noticed today was, Ferrari have decided to spin off the company from Fiat Chrysler. They've decided to sell, I think, 10% of the shares to the public. The value of the company came at $7 billion. And I was really shocked at how much they're saying Ferrari is worth. $7 billion for a car company that builds 12,000 cars a year.
But it's not the cars that they're producing. It's their race team that is the money.
But is the race team? So the race team is part of that or not?
It has to be, because that's why they build the cars anyways, is to provide money for the race team.
I don't know if the race team is going to be sold with the company. I'm not sure that that's part of the deal. But it's very. Did it come with Mark Scholes? Did it come with Mark Scholes? Did you say?
Yeah,
he's going to be
that sale.
Yeah, no, I think it would be valued at a lot more than $7 billion if Mark Scholes was.
Good point.
So there you go. The last story that I was, those are the two stories I was looking at. Sean, you also had a story.
Toyota, Nissan, and Honda are combining forces and going to start trying to do hydrogen cars, which I think's good that they're actually doing that. Maybe they'll come out and produce some cheaper cars.
I will tell you that we have an event this summer in Portland called Drive Revolution, which is a green car event, and the new Toyota fuel cell car will be making its first appearance at the event, and we'll be driving it before the national launch. I
got to drive the Highlander hydrogen one, and I fell in love with that car. It actually has some power and get up and go. We should. Hydrogen makes sense for some very simple reasons. The runoff from it, or the byproduct, is water, because it's the combination of the hydrogen and the byproduct, again, H2O. The range is about 300 miles plus in the vehicles. It's a solid fuel, so you don't have to wait for a battery to recharge, but the actual engines are electric. So because they obviously use a turbine inside to make electricity. So there's no downside. The only downside to hydrogen fuel is we have no infrastructure in America. But I went to a seminar about that, and they're talking they can actually build off the natural gas lines that we already have and make hydrogen fuel pumps.
We still don't have the natural gas. Talking to Honda, that was part of their deal. Right, California's great for that, but not in Oregon or Washington. One
of the big problems, I think, with any of these things is somebody has to make money out of the fuel, else they're not going to let us do it.
And really the bottom line is it's whatever the government backs, what alternative fuel it backs, and what they give credit for, and it's $7,500 for electric cars. So
Right. And they will credit hydrogen, I'm sure, but it will only be for a limited time. A lot of cars dropping off of that credit list now. The Prius, I don't think, is any longer on that credit list. There's several dropping off the end.
Nissan's got about another year or two with their Leaf, because they're a product of their own success. They've sold so many cars that it now will drop off in a couple of years.
And apparently a secondhand Leaf is one of the best buys you can get in America right now. You can pick them up pretty cheap. And great fuel economy. Do you have any other stories you've been looking at, Brad?
I've got an interesting one from Ford. They're implementing a new program. It's called a peer-to-peer program. So it's the Uber of car ownership, I guess it is. So if you have a car that's financed through Ford, and it's a pilot program in about 6 cities, which of course includes San Francisco and Portland, not Seattle, but you can rent your car to somebody during the day if you are at work and somebody needs to use a Ford truck to move something, you can rent your car.
So first of all, that gives me visions of, is that a chocolate stain on my seat when I get back in my car? Do they vacuum it out? Does someone come and vacuum it out and refuel it when you get back to it? I don't know. There's so many things that would drive me nuts. I drive nuts when I get in a car and my other half has empty coffee cups in there and stuff. I'm like, hey, come on now.
I get irritated when people just adjust my seat.
See? Well, and if you ever get into a car after Sean, it has lithium blaring out on full volume. It is minus 72 degrees in there, and the steering wheel and the seat position are like you're lying down.
With something like this, are you going to have to apply your own insurance? Are you going to have
They've got an insurance program that's based through the Ford Finance. That's why it's just the Ford financed vehicles. And I'm substantially sure it's just for the millennials, which you're no longer in.
I'm way too selfish. I'm not sure I could do it. Jenny, you had a story?
I did have a story. And back on the subject of hydrogen, Honda's working on making a standalone hydrogen model. And the way they're going to do that is by axing all of their other hybrids
Right.
and a few other cars. The inside hybrid, dead. The Crosstour we know will die, and it's already going to die. The Civic natural gas, gone. The Civic hybrid, gone. The Honda Accord hybrid and plug-in hybrid are gone for 1 year, but they'll be back when the Accord is facelifted for the 2017 model.
See, I think that Honda are just aligning themselves with what everyone wants. That's the sound of the music. So we're coming to the end of the show again. Those are the top news stories. We'll have all of the news stories on our website. You can go to testmiles.com all week long, 24/7. Listen to the show there. We'll be back again next week. Some very interesting topics. And we got some surprises coming up. We're going to be doing a live remote broadcast from the Concours d'Elegance in Forest Grove on the 19th in 2 weeks' time. We'll tell you all about that next week. This is Test Miles. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. Testmiles.com.